You've done it thousands of times. You pull up to an intersection, glance at a pole, and let three colored bulbs decide what you do next. Red, yellow, green. You don't think about it. You just obey. But stop for a second and ask the obvious question. Why those colors? Why not blue for go and white for stop? Why does the whole world, every country, every city, every driver agree on this exact combination? The answer doesn't start with cars. It doesn't even start with roads. It starts with trains, a series of deadly crashes, and a color system borrowed from an industry that had nothing to do with driving. Welcome to Question Everything. Today we're finding out why traffic lights are red, yellow, and green. To understand where the colors came from, we have to go back to the 1830s. The railroad was the most dangerous technology in the world. Trains were heavy, fast, and completely unable to stop quickly. And the biggest killer wasn't mechanical failure. It was human error. Two trains on the same track, heading toward each other because nobody knew the line was occupied. Railway companies desperately needed a signaling system. Something simple enough for any worker to use and understand instantly. Even from a distance, even in bad weather, even at night. So they turned to something that already existed, the color code used by the maritime industry. For centuries, ships had used colored lights to communicate at sea. Red meant danger, green meant clear. The railways adopted this directly. Red meant stop, green meant go. It was logical, it was borrowed, and it worked. But there was a problem. In the early days of the railway, green meant caution, not go. And white meant go. This seems bizarre now, but it made a certain kind of sense at the time. White was the easiest color to produce with a simple lamp. So white became the default clear signal. Then came a catastrophic night in 1914. Red lens fell out of its casing on a signal post somewhere in the United States. The bare white bulb behind it shone through. A train driver saw white, assumed the line was clear, and drove straight into another train. People died because a color was missing. After that disaster, the railways rethought everything. White was too dangerous, too easy to confuse with any random light source along the track. Green was moved up to mean go, and a new color was needed for the space between stop and go. Something that wasn't red and wasn't green. Something that said, slow down, a decision is coming. They chose yellow. Specifically, they chose it because it is the color the human eye detects fastest. In low light, in fog, in rain, yellow cuts through visual noise better than almost any other color. It is the most visible warning the spectrum has to offer. Now the railways had red, yellow, and green. But cars were still a decade away from needing any of it. The world's first traffic light appeared in London in 1868, long before the car was even invented. It used gas lamps, red and green only, and was operated manually by a police officer standing beneath it. It exploded within 2 months, injuring the officer, and the experiment was quietly abandoned. It wasn't until 1914 that the first electric traffic light appeared in Cleveland, Ohio. It used red and green. A buzzer sounded before the light changed, because the idea of a warning color in between hadn't yet made the jump from railways to roads. That gap was finally closed in 1920, when a Detroit police officer named William Potts looked at the railway system and asked a simple question. Why don't we just do what the trains do? He added the yellow light. He wired up the first four-way, three-color traffic signal. And almost overnight, cities across America started copying it. By the time the rest of the world followed, the logic was already locked in. Red, yellow, green, stop, caution, go. The railway's language had become the road's language, and it spread to every country on Earth. Because international agreements in the mid-20th century standardized it globally. No matter where you drive, Tokyo, Lagos, Buenos Aires, Oslo, the lights speak the same 3 words. So the next time you sit at a red light, tapping your fingers on the wheel, waiting for green, remember what you're actually looking at. You are looking at a system designed for steam trains in the 1830s, refined by a catastrophic accident in 1914, borrowed by a police officer in Detroit in 1920, and eventually copied by every nation on Earth. 3 colors. 150 years. And not a single country has ever felt the need to change them. I hope this one made you look at your commute a little differently. If it did, hit that like button. It really does help the channel grow. And subscribe to Question Everything for more stories hiding inside the things you pass every single day without ever thinking to ask why. Thanks for watching.